Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing The War Machines. This was, of course, sent to me by one of my patrons and subscribers, the Flyattractor, who's been a huge supporter of the channel, has sent several things, sent me the DVD and the novelization, actually, and I'd only seen The War Machines once before, and it had been a while. Matter of fact, I had forgotten it's a four-parter. For some reason, I was thinking it was 6 parts. I smooth forgot it was a 4-parter. It wasn't until I had the DVD in there, and I had to track down the remote for my Region Free player. It's been a minute since I've used it, actually. It occurred to me. That took a second to find. And I put the disc in, and I was checking the episodes, and I'm like, oh, it's only 4. Okay, even easier. And so I really appreciate the Flyattractor sending that. And it was great to rewatch this for only the second time, and again, kind of coming in with it only being hazy in my mind. The story itself is kind of a B story. Like, it doesn't hold up as well to time as well as some of the 60s stories do. A lot of the stuff in it, like the Wotan machine, its hypnotizing effect, and the actual war machines themselves, they look very quaint now. Very quaint. Very quaint. And I get, it's classic Doctor Who, but for some things, even if they don't age well, my willing suspension of disbelief is fine. And to a degree it is here as well, but it still has that kind of B-movie look to it where I'm sitting there going, bless its heart. I like the story. I mean, Wotan. I keep forgetting it's actually pronounced Wotan. I wonder if that's where they got the name for the computer in System Shock 2 from, now that I'm thinking about it. The idea of a computer going, wow, humans suck at this, I'm taking over. And then either taking over, hypnotizing people to help them take over. That's not really an original concept these days. It was probably more so back when this serial came out in, 1965 or 66, whenever it was. But if I had watched it back when I was younger, I would probably connect with that more. But it does kind of have a been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, rode the ride feeling to it for me, who has watched all these kind of scenarios before, or that scenario so many different ways before. It's still nice. I mean, most of the acting is good. The guy playing Brett sometimes, especially when he's getting hypnotized and dehypnotized, it's a little over the top. But most of the acting I like. The guy with the glasses who gets hypnotized, I liked him a lot. It's a shame he didn't make it. I wish he had. I liked him. His little speech right before he gets hypnotized is really good. When he's looking right at the camera, that's pretty good. I like the guy playing Sir Charles, and he's got to be in more Doctor Who. He looks so familiar. I know him from other stuff. The guy playing, I think his name is like William Mervyn or something like that. He's got to be in other Doctor Who episodes. He looks so familiar. I really liked him. I loved his willingness to kind of believe the Doctor and go along with what the Doctor was suggesting. Hartnell is putting in such a performance. We have to commend Hartnell here. All the little things, the way he's saying his lines, his body language, what he's doing with his hands, his facial expressions a lot. He just conveys so many things. This is just an actor who is very good at his craft. And the Doctor has such a commanding presence. This is something Jodie Whittaker never really got in the role. He just has such a commanding presence. He's always the one in the room who you're watching. You're seeing what he's doing. People listen to him when he talks. He just, without even seeming to try to, he just commands that respect where you listen to him when he talks. That's the Doctor, and I like that. I love how he just takes command of everything going on around him. That's very, very nice. Dodo is okay in this. She's only in the first 2 episodes because we know the actress's contract was out after episode 2. That's why we just get the little, she said to tell you goodbye at the end of the story. It's a terrible companion egg. One of the worst companion exits. I think most of us know that. The story does suffer a little from that. That's a bad companion exit, but I won't hold that against it. So we don't get much of Dodo here. I'm not a big fan of Dodo anyway, so it's not exactly breaking my heart. Ben and Polly, I always do like Ben and Polly, and I think Michael and Annika are putting in great performances here. Annika, of course, having to play regular Polly and hypnotized Polly, and she's doing both really well. this is the only story with Ben and Polly that's complete. Like where all of the surviving or all of the episodes are intact. This is the only story because they're only in season 4 after that, and there is no complete season 4 story. You know, aside being complete with animation, of course. So that's interesting. This is their only complete story where all of the episodes are intact. I really love the scene when Ben is in the warehouse trying to escape. The first and second time, Michael Craze puts in such a good performance that I felt what he was feeling, like that adrenaline rush of, I've got to get out, I've got to get out. My life is literally in danger here. Like when he's going to get the crowbar and he's sitting there trying to force that door open and he's, come on. I'm right there with him going, come on. Like I was pumped. I was literally pumped up, like, ooh, my adrenaline was rushing. I was on the edge of my seat. So that's a really good job with Michael and whoever was directing that had me caught up in the action as well. I really liked that. The cliffhangers were good, especially that episode 3 cliffhanger when everybody else is backing away and the Doctor's just, you know, it's a very iconic moment for the first Doctor, and it's really good, especially the reprisal of it in episode 4, because you can tell it wasn't just the episode 3 shot reused. They reshot it for episode 4. Both of them look really, really good. At the end of episode 3 and the beginning of episode 4, it looks really, really good, and a wonderful moment for the first Doctor. The voice of Wotan is really good. I want to know who voices Wotan, because I feel like that's a famous Doctor Who person, and it doesn't say in the credits, I think. I think at the credits it just says, and Wotan. So I don't know who actually voices Wotan, but I feel like it's a Doctor Who name I would recognize. It's a really creepy voice. Kind of has that Sutek feel to it that I like. I really like that voice work for him. So I'm enjoying everything going on in there. The biggest problem with the story is some of the footage looks rough. You can tell that some of the footage they have to use isn't from a well-preserved copy. I did watch the little thing on the disc where it talks about how this episode was restored. I think this came out in like 2008. The restoration work where you had one film print here that was an inferior copy to another film print, but the superior one had censor cuts. The Australian one had censor cuts. And then you also had some stuff that they found the film elements from stuff like Blue Peter, so they were able to use the film elements instead of the inferior elements. Some of the stuff they found censor clips. The interesting thing there is that sometimes you'll get a really good looking picture, sometimes you get a really bad looking picture, and sometimes it's somewhere in the middle. The quality of the picture is all over the place in this story. And sometimes it jumps from one to the other almost instantly, like the scene in episode 4 when the guy's in the phone booth like, hey, I just saw one of the things, and the War Machine comes to the phone booth and sprays him. That looks really good, and then it cuts to where one goes past a car and it zooms in on the car radio, and that looks terrible. The fight scene in the warehouse in episode 3, right toward the end with all of the military soldiers, looks rough. Especially some shots look really, really rough. It's really grainy. You can see the grain. It's all the little dots and everything, the little white noise or whatever it is. It looks rough. Whereas sometimes you get a shot in there where it looks crystal clear, like you swear it's an original surviving film element. It looks so good. And then it's kind of jarring when it's cutting from one to the other. So of all the 60 stories I've rewatched, this is one of the ones where that's most notable for me, that some of the shots look rough. Like I'm sitting here thinking when that season 3 box set comes out, this is going to need some more restoration work, whatever they can do with it. Now don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I'm happy we have the story. It could be worse. These could be missing episodes. These were at one time missing episodes. I think episode 2 was found first, and that was the only one they had for a long time before they found the other copies. So I am very happy we have this story. It's wonderful to be able to see this story. Again, if it was animated, we'd lose all of those little nuances in Hartnell's performance that just makes it amazing. Including that iconic season 3 cliffhanger, which looks so good. So I'm glad it exists. Let me be clear. I'm not trying to just whine about the quality. I'm happy it exists. But since I am reviewing it, I feel like I should point out that of the 60 stories I've watched, this one is one of the roughest one in places, especially some of the battle sequences, probably because of censor cuts or something. It looks a little rough, like It's perfectly watchable, but you notice it. So I liked it. It's not like essential. Well, maybe if it's essential, it's more because it has some nice heroic moments for Hartnell, and it is the introduction to Ben and Polly. I mean, less so because it's Dodo's exit, because it's a terrible exit, but I do like it being the introduction to Ben and Polly, and it's their only complete story. But like from a story standpoint, I don't consider it really essential. Again, it's kind of C tier Doctor Who for me. Maybe lower B tier, like a B movie for in America in the 50s or something like that, or 60s. It's not one I'm just sitting here going, go watch The War Machines, unless you want to see a good performance of the Doctor, and the Doctor being heroic, and maybe you like Ben and Polly. But from a narrative standpoint, it's not one of his top tier stories. It's not up there with stuff like the Dalek Invasion of Earth, or the Time Meddler, or the Rescue, or the Romans, or the Daleks even. It's just kind of there. It's nice. I enjoyed it. It's certainly not bad by any means, but it's not one I will go back to a lot. It's just one I'll go back and watch every now and then when I'm in the mood for it. I want to know what you think of The War Machines, and if you've noticed the visual quality differences as well, like I've talked about. So let's talk about it down below in the comments. Don't forget to click the subscribe button as well. I also have a link to my Patreon down there if you like what I do and like to contribute to what I do, get to vote in polls, get early access to videos, get exclusive videos, especially exclusive bloopers. I am not shy. I have no shame. I have no problems putting misfires, outtakes, first attempts that didn't go wrong, video fails up there for my patrons to see. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. That's down there as well. I have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there. I have a link to my Amazon UK wishlist also down there. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. And most importantly, thank you for watching.